Hi, I'm Ciana Svoboda, and I'm going to talk to you about equine rabies. Now, what is rabies? Well, rabies is a highly contagious neurological disease. It's going to affect your central nervous system and your brain. The signs that you're going to see affecting your horse is going to be its coordination. It's going to stumble around. It's going to be very unsteady. It's going to affect their muscle contractions and muscle control. They aren't going to be able to swallow, which is where you'll see a lot of the drooling or foaming at the mouth. They won't be able to control their heart rate or their lungs, which is why they go into paralysis. You'll see major behavioral changes. They will either become very, very aggressive or they will be very, very lethargic and not want to get up. And this will eventually lead to death, mainly from encephalitis. The rabies is transmitted through the saliva of an infected animal, so one that already has rabies, into the bloodstream of an uninfected animal. The most common way of transmission is going to be through bites, but you can also get rabies from an infected animal licking an open wound. So why should you vaccinate? Well, the main reason is because there is no cure for rabies. Rabies is uncurable right now. And if your horse does get rabies, they're going to have rabies, and it will kill them. The cost of the vaccine is also a lot less than the cost of your horse becoming infected. In 2012, there were 42 confirmed cases of equine rabies right in the United States. And just another little fun fact, every year annually, about 40,000 people in the United States receive post-exposure prophylactic shots. Now, these are the shots that help people to survive rabies so that they don't get it. So what do you do if your horse has been bitten or slobbered on, I guess? You're gonna for your vaccinated horse, it's pretty straightforward and simple, but also remember that vaccinations are not 100% effective, so you do need to take some more precautions. You're going to isolate that horse for about 3 to 6 months. Probably more on the 3-month side, monitoring for signs of rabies. You're going to contact your veterinarian. They should be able to tell you more signs and symptoms to look for, and they also might give a booster shot, depending on when the last time your horse had their rabies shot. For your unvaccinated horse, it's a little bit different. You're going to want to isolate for a minimum of 6 months and monitor for signs. Even though rabies signs usually show up in the first 3 to 6 weeks, rabies can also go undetected for up to 2 years before you even see signs and symptoms. So you want to contact your veterinarian as well. They are going to need to know that your horse has been bitten and could be a potentially infected with rabies. So again, they'll give you more signs and symptoms to monitor for, and they might even recommend a booster shot or a rabies shot to see if it will help. But when you do see signs and symptoms, you're going to want to euthanize. And then you're going to send the brain of that animal, so your horse, in to get tested. And mainly, it's to confirm that that animal did have rabies. So what do you think the cost of rabies is? And how much do you think that the U.S. spends in post-exposure prophylactic costs annually? 3,000, 3 million, 300 million maybe? Well, they spend about $300 million annually on post-exposure prophylactic, just to help protect humans from rabies. Now, what is your cost of rabies? Well, if you vaccinate your horse to protect them against rabies, the vaccine itself costs about 20 bucks. And then to have your veterinarian come out and administer it costs about another 120. Whereas if you don't vaccinate your horse, it's going to cost you about $500 to have the vet come out and euthanize your horse. Then it's going to cost anywhere from about $45 here at Iowa State to $450 at the University of Minnesota, just because you have an out-of-state charge as well as a percentage of the testing fee that they charge to get that brain tested for rabies. And then you also have the cost of the horse, because you no longer own that horse. You can't sell that horse. You can't show that horse. That horse cannot make you any money. So typically you're going to spend about $2,500 to $3,000 on a horse. And that's a fairly decent horse. But you could spend anywhere up to $1 million on a horse. And you could be out a lot of money. And also, you can't render a horse. If your horse has contracted rabies, or is considered to have contracted rabies and was euthanized, the body of that horse cannot be rendered. You either need to bury the horse, or you need to cremate your horse, the body. And in the state of Iowa, you need to bury the body at least 4 feet underground with 4 feet of soil cover on the body. And then you can put whatever mulch and other things you want on top of it, but you need at least 4 feet of soil cover. And this can run you anywhere from about $100 to $450. It depends on the method that you use, and it also depends on where you are in the state and where you are geographically in the United States as well. The other major cost you may need to look at is your own medical costs. If you suspect that you got saliva from that infected animal on you, onto a cut, onto a scrape, anywhere that it can get into your blood system, you need to go in and go get a prophylactic or a post-exposure prophylactic shot, which is really a series of about 4 shots that are given over the course of about 2 months. The first shot is going to be very expensive. That shot can cost you anywhere from $2,000 to $6,000, depending on where you get it. If you just go into your doctor and say, hey, I need this shot, I was exposed, it's going to cost you about $2,000. If you go into an emergency room, it could cost you up to $6,000, along with the rest of the series of shots costing you about another $1,000 to $2,000. So, very costly. I hope I've encouraged you all to go get your horses vaccinated and have them kept up on their vaccinations. So, when do you need to vaccinate? Well, you should start vaccinating between 3 and 6 months of age, depending on the risk. So if you're in a very high-risk area, so your horses are constantly exposed to the outdoors, they're going to see a lot of raccoons, bats, foxes, skunks. You're going to want to get them vaccinated about 3 months. If they're not, if they're here at Iowa State, like our guys, they're in a stall quite a bit. They're out in the paddock during the day and then they come back in. They don't get a lot of exposure to other animals. You could probably wait until 6 months to vaccinate, depending on what you want to do. And then again, you're going to vaccinate at 1 year of age, and then you'd vaccinate once every year after that. It's going to be a little different for pregnant mares. So pregnant mares should be vaccinated before breeding season or 6 weeks prior to foaling. So your shots may be a little later or a little earlier than a year, which is just fine. And then references.